Hello, everyone.
Hi.
This is Leslie and Tanya, and we are actually going to begin our podcast very soon. We have technical stuff we need to do first, so please bear with us while I get that ready.
Get a drink.
Yes, we already have a drink. We are drinking tropical stuff. We're drinking pina coladas today. We thought we'd have a lovely background of a beach, but that didn't work out yet. We have something in the works that will bring that to us, but not today. I thought it would be today, so I apologize.
We tried, but it just didn't work.
Yeah. So let's see if we can begin our podcast. So, let's see here. You ready? Hello, hello, hello.
Hi.
You're here with Leslie and Tanya today. And we are actually going to be discussing something similar to what we discussed the last time.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, we were talking about anxiety, what that looks like in different cultures. And we also talked about some really unique ways to ground ourselves or to make ourselves present so that it reduces any of the nervousness or anything like that. And so we were talking about tapping. What else did we talk about?
I think you mentioned the ice cube
method. On your wrist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For a few seconds to really bring yourself back to the present and really think about what's going on. But, we were talking last night. I've been away and I came back. And so Tanya and I had a lot to talk about. Always. So we spent hours talking about different things last night, including what to drink.
Always what to drink. That we just brought it back to the original just for today.
Yeah, pina coladas.
Yeah, this is the original. This is the OG. You're gonna come back to it. Oh, and we did it. This is not on purpose.
No, we
legit. I didn't text her. I didn't say, "Hey, let's wear this shirt." This just happened. This is what happens when you see each other every weekend.
That's exactly
and then
right.
Because she's been gone and left me behind, I have to catch up.
Yeah, that's okay. We won't be left behind too much longer because we're going on something pretty soon in December, but we're bringing you with us, so be prepared for that.
Yay.
Yeah, so we were talking last night and I was telling her that it was sometimes really hard for me to get to sleep because I have all these kind of crazy intrusive thoughts right before I sleep. It's like, remember that time when you were in 3rd grade and you were surrounded by your class and somebody comes up to you and says, "You want to go with me?" And I say, "Go where?" No.
Yeah.
I had just moved to the area, had no idea what that meant. No idea what that phrase meant. And they were just all laughing at me. So I think about that and I laugh at myself, but at the same time, I think, well, what could I have said to everybody? Could I have said anything different? Could I have stood up for myself instead of being so embarrassed, not knowing what that meant? That those kinds of things, those kinds of intrusive thoughts. But what that actually really signifies is...
Well, and kind of just before, intrusive thoughts, I know people have a lot of ideas of what that means and when you say intrusive thoughts, people get a little bit like, but not to hurt myself. No, it's not. We're not talking about to hurt yourself. We're talking about more in the spirit of this is something that you've thought of because it kind of has this memory tied to it or this flashback or, oh man, like you get all kind of worked up about it. It's literally not the idea of intrusive thoughts that is going to send you to the hospital. Because I know a lot of people come in and they're like, well, I'm not trying to hurt myself. I'm like, no, you're not. I think intrusive thoughts are beyond that. I think it starts with these things of you start with something and you kind of end up at what you did in 3rd grade And it literally has nothing to do where we started. The
Mm-mm.
thought process, it just starts one place, because that happens to me, especially when I'm driving. If I'm not really like, because when we're driving, we're kind of just driving and we're going. You think of something that just happened, and then you end up at something completely different. Either a conversation you had with someone, an argument you had with someone that made you feel like maybe you weren't expecting it, and then it kind of hurt your feelings. And then you kind of think about, well, if I would have said this, then maybe the conversation would have been different. That's an intrusive thought, right? Like, this happened because I didn't do that. And if I go back, then maybe I would have done this, because we think that we can make it just, we could have had that impact, but in reality, probably not. Right. But it's one of those things that the intrusive thought itself is like to go back and like reimagine what we would have done differently in that moment.
Exactly. How many times have I done that where I wish I had spoken up and I didn't? And so now I'm like, this is something that comes to me in the middle of the night sometimes, and it's like, oh, I could have said this and it would have been funnier. Or I could have said this to make my point clear, or clarify something that I wanted to say, or even just to defend myself.
Absolutely.
That's just, part of it's actually part of anxiety.
This is the sleep disturbance tied with the ruminating thoughts, tied to these intrusive thoughts that I know people look at it, because I have clients come in and like, no, I'm not, no, we're not going there. Self-harm is one thing. Intrusive thoughts don't always signify that. But this is something that we can kind of incorporate into the language. Like, and I don't know if a lot of people too, I'm sure, have seen it on TikTok, but intrusive thoughts, like there's so many videos on like, you think something and then you do it. And you're like, oh shit, I don't know why I did that. Something like that. But a lot of the thoughts are more the ruminating thoughts, and the intrusive thoughts are like, man, if I would have just said this to this partner, we might still be together. Right. Or if I would have said this in third grade, it would have been completely different. It really goes back, and you're trying to reconcile something that will never happen. But if it just would have been different, maybe today would be completely different for the rest of us. And there's no logic. Anxiety has no logic. It lives in the world of irrational and just gross and disgusting. Like, it's like ill, right? It lives in the world of ill, and it sucks for anyone who has to kind of spiral, because that's very typical of anxiety.
I call it the ick. Like, when you're just feeling just icky. Just, I know it's a stupid name, but it's what I call
That's what
it.
It feels like. A lot of people struggle. Absolutely. For me, it's like a sense of urgency. I feel like I have to like do something, or I've missed something important when I have like high levels of anxiety.
Yeah. And there's more that comes with that. Like, even during the daytime, we don't even realize what anxiety can look like, because we've normalized it.
Right.
We normalize it. So, for instance, if you find yourself tapping your toe or your fingers on the table, or, you're moving your legs up and down, you see people bobbing up and down because of it. Or if you have to really think about what the person is saying before you can actually like respond, and you say what instead, to give you that time to think about it and process it. It's a form of anxiety, and and it can really affect you and make you feel less than,
because somebody else can say, did you not hear me?
Right.
Are you not paying attention? But then you say what, and then you answer. But it's like you need to like spark your brain to kind of just move into action, because a lot of it, right? Like, there's intrusive thoughts about, what if I say something stupid? What if I say something wrong? We're always very much scared of saying the wrong thing, or the stupid thing, or the bad thing. And the what, sometimes like it gives us that pause to like catch up to it. And then we're like, and then we answer, because a lot of people do that. And we can kind of attest to like giving your brain that spark to say, okay, you could say this. But there's always a lot of thoughts about, what if I say something stupid, or what if I don't know what I'm talking about, or what if they don't understand me? Because I know for me, when I need something to be understood, I say it multiple times, and maybe in different words, but I do repeat myself, and I want to like make sure the other person gets it, because sometimes I feel like there's a lot of rambling with anxiety. You get like overwhelmed with so many thoughts and you can't really catch up to them. And then you can have to slow down. And that's where it kind of can be tragic because you're like, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. And then you kind of feel dumb. And again, intrusive thoughts, if we just get there eventually.
And unfortunately, these types of things, some of the physical manifestations of anxiety, the ticking of the eye, the twitching of the shoulders, or the shoulders going up to your ears,
Right.
The tapping of the foot, the tapping of the finger, the shaking of the leg,
The clicking of a pen if you have a pen in your hand.
Exactly.
Or like tapping it.
Yeah. Or chewing on it.
Mm-hmm.
These are all physical manifestations of anxiety, even if we didn't realize that's what it was, because we have normalized these things to say, oh, this is just what I do.
Yeah.
It's just what I do. It's just something that I just do. It's, nothing, nothing bad, type of thing. It's just me. But it's more than just you. And once we can realize that, we can learn how to kind of reduce the anxiety that we have. And by reduce, I mean really becoming more self-aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it, and then learning how to counteract it.
Right.
And the last podcast we did, we talked a lot about tapping.
Mm-hmm.
And Tanya is very familiar with tapping, and so we were showing techniques on that.
Yeah.
So listen to our podcast on that. It's really interesting. But a lot of people, say you can tap your chakras if you're into that. A lot of people, discuss tapping different places on your body to kind of bring you back to the present. And we call these grounding techniques, is bringing you back to the present so that these intrusive thoughts and these physical manifestations can kind of be reduced. And provide us a healthier outlook on everything around us at that time.
Right.
So I think we were going to talk about different grounding techniques.
Because I know we started with we've mentioned the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, which is one of my favorites. And then obviously the breathing, the cold, right? The ice cubes. I know we also mentioned a couple podcasts ago, the mindful eating, like there's just so many things to kind of keep you grounded, because that spiral,
the raisin technique,
spiral will, the thing is, I don't think anybody realizes how fast these connections are made in your brain, where we literally, one thing, it could be our senses is how we learn our world through our senses. Anything could spark a thought, anything could spark a memory. And if it causes anxiety, you are down the rabbit hole and you're gone. And now we could even go as far as go very dark, and we could go, I'm not worthy of something. So we need to stop those thoughts before it gets there, because then we talk very quickly, it becomes panic attacks. And that's a whole disorder within itself. And then we have gone too far. And then that's where we start kind of considering medication. So a lot of these things is to take a step back and just literally get that oxygen to your brain, kind of slow down your central nervous system, because you're talking about cortisol and adrenaline, and you're talking about all the stress hormones that are just shooting out, and these are made for survival. But if there's nothing to fight or to flee from, then we're lost, and then our brain doesn't know how to come back from that.
And really, we're talking about grounding techniques, but it's going to lead to reframing your self-talk, like reframing how we talk to ourselves. And instead of this negative stuff that we say to ourselves all the time, oh, you're so stupid, you should have done this, and we're living in the shoulda, coulda, woulda world, we have to reframe that into, you know what, you're enough, you're okay, you've got this, you've got this. But that's another podcast. Today we're going to talk about like some of the techniques you can use at home, and this is universal. It does not matter what your culture is. It does not matter where you come from. It does not matter what you identify as.
Right.
All that matters is that you learn to become more self-aware of yourself, your triggers, and how you can ground yourself in the present to have that healthier lifestyle that
Right.
that you want, that your family wants, that you within your family want. And you can do this at home. So you don't have to go anywhere or talk to anybody, but you're more than welcome to talk to us. We're live right now. So if you have a question, you can please just go ahead, put it in the chat box. Let us hear from you. But anyhow, one of the things that we had learned to do very early on is when you are starting to realize that you're tapping your foot, you're shaking your leg, your eyes are ticking, your shoulders are going up. One of the things that you can do in your mind is you can spell your name backwards, literally. Eilsel, and then Leslie. So you have to actually stop to do this. You have to stop and think how you're going to spell your name backwards and then forwards again, and then do it with your last name as well. And it just brings you back to the present really quick. And puts you in a different mindset.
Well, yeah, because it gets you out of that animalistic, the reptilian, however we've heard it, right? The most emotional and animalistic part, that's our base brain. We go immediately there when we're out of whack and whatever it looks like, dysregulated, anxious, and maybe a little scared for whatever reason. And we have to start this thinking of this is turning on this prefrontal cortex that holds all of this logic that we can't get to when we're anxious. And people come into the office all the time and say, well, I just couldn't. Duh. Like, you can't, because you're in a whole anxiety attack or panic attack or whatever. That's what's going to happen. You can't be in a panic attack and be like, oh, hey, you, Tanya, like, remember, you have to do this. Absolutely not. This is why you go see a therapist if we go that far, but it really is to have to slow down. You just have to slow down. And what that looks like is literally, if you got to like get the piece of like, because there's a lot of new kind of research and resources with like cold, right? If you want to splash your face with cold water or use an ice cube and put it in maybe some pressure points if you can't do the tapping or you don't really want to. There's also a lot about sour candies these days.
Yes.
That is apparently really good if you want to carry like a warhead. Warheads are like traditional, but that's like something that you could look out for
just
as
sour,
well.
very sour candy.
Yeah.
Wherever you can get it, in whatever country you can get it in, but
Yeah.
just carrying those around isn't so bad, right? Once you realize that you're doing these physical manifestations, just pop one in your mouth and it's kind of brings you right back to the present.
Yeah, and do that before we're in the world of like an anxiety attack. Like the thing is, we really have to be very mindful, right? This word mindful, we can't let it get so far. And this is why learning the physical traits of it, if your heart starts racing and you're starting to get flush and you feel hot from inside out, get that candy. Get that candy, get that ice. Like, what are you doing in that moment? Stop yourself and go for the thing. Sometimes crunchy foods also, apparently. Crunchy foods, gum, if you have a fidget toy, like anything to use your senses, like just do it, right? I have a fidget box in my office. Adults and children take one. I love Play-Doh. I have my own Play-Doh. Kinetic sand, like the different textures. Kinetic sand
touch is very important.
Something really, if you like something hard, you need something hard, or if you like the little poppets, it really could be anything that you have in your purse, in your pocket. There's keychains now, like all of these things. It's so that we don't go as far as to go into a full-blown panic attack where you're ending up at the hospital and they tell you you're okay and it's an anxiety, like it's all anxiety.
The last thing we want to bring up is something that is universal across the globe is music.
Mm-hmm.
And music can do so many different things. It can soothe your soul, but it can also like enrage your mind too. So you want to find the music that really soothes your soul and create a playlist. Just create a playlist. Call it Calm or Breathe or Happy, or something that will help you when you have that quiet time in your day. Just listen to that list that you put together.
And like a shameful, this is a very shameful plug. We are on Spotify.
Yes.
And if you happen to use Spotify for your streaming, get our podcast. Listen
Yeah.
to it if you want to. Please just like, enjoy the podcast. This is for you guys. We love what we do, but sharing it is even a bigger thing. We will always say this. We are not one to do this. This is not a natural thing for us.
No.
The TikToks we're posting, the pictures,
this is very hard for us.
Y'all need to work with us. Yes.
So we want to hear from you.
Yes.
We have an email. You can contact
Yes.
us mindscape717@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. If you have anything you want to discuss culture-wise or mental health-wise or both, we are there. We're more than willing to listen.
Absolutely.
So I think that is the end of our podcast today. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do what I have to do. And again, please forgive my technical stuff or lack of technical skills here.
We're trying.
And we'll see ya.